Believe it or not, it is already Thanksgiving week, and we'll take a look at the Thanksgiving games on Fanduel, and it's all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, this is the best week of the year. Not only are we going to get to enjoy some Thanksgiving turkey, but we get to pause and be thankful to our FFC community. Big shout out to you guys. You guys are what makes this channel great. And honestly, I think that can go toe-to-toe to any channel. Why? Not because of what Michael and I say. We're right sometimes, wrong other times, but that you guys are so active and you really make it a great community. And we thank you guys. That's why we're going to be doing a contest that starts this upcoming week for all of the folks that have been most active in the comment section. We will remind you here who the people who are qualified. If you haven't given us your username, you better get that in now in order for us to invite you for the week 12 contest.
And you new viewers, or those who've been with us for a while but haven't done so yet, please hit the red subscribe button. We really helps us out.
Yes, and we appreciate that. All right, everybody, let's go into the FanDuel studio and break down the games. All right, when we're looking at the Thanksgiving slate, we only have 3 games. And by far, the Dallas-Vegas game is the game that Vegas thinks is going to be the highest scoring game, 54.5. And the game in the middle is the Buffalo at New Orleans in a dome, 47.5 points over under. And Chicago at Detroit, also in a dome, is only 44.5 points expected total score. So we're definitely going to want to get some exposure to that Dallas Vegas game. And guess what? That's where we're going to start. I am going to argue, Michael, that we've got to get a Zeke Elliott in our lineup. This guy gives you everything that you could possibly want in a running back on Thanksgiving, on this Thanksgiving slate. He's at home. He's favorite, a touchdown favorite, 31 implied total. And if you look how he's been doing, don't worry about this past week. He got injured in the middle of the game and then had to come back. That's why Tony Pollard had so much action, but he should be good to go. He did return to the game after being injured. And who else does the Cowboys have? Cooper's out. CeeDee Lamb is coming off an injury. They're going to lean heavily on Ezekiel Elliott. And no offense to your team, Michael, but Las Vegas is struggling against the run. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that this is a big week for Zeke. They're going to certainly need to get him the ball in the running game, which will open up opportunities for him in the passing game as well. And really no one else on the slate who's I'm really in love with this week. So good pick.
Yeah, we'll monitor him. Like I said, he came back to the game. He's got a little questionable tag very early in the week, but he's in our first look lineup here. Who are we going to supplement on the other side, the other running back alongside Elliott?
Well, again, we want a high floor and some decent upside. And DeAndre Swift is the go-to guy, especially right now. I think Jamal Williams has been out, so that's getting Swift more touches. And Chicago, yeah, they've been a little bit tough on the run, but with Fields out and Andy Dalton back at the helm, I think this could be a game where you actually might see Detroit get up at home.
Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Stop the presses. Are you calling a Detroit win the first one of the year?
I think that I'm saying that this could be the week for Detroit. So,
don't go too far on a limb. This could be the week. All right, I like that.
Yeah, well, and if that's going to happen, it's going to require DeAndre Swift to have a good game. But look what he's done all year long. I mean, yeah, he's had a couple of games where he hasn't, scored it in the 20s. But for the most part, he's been nice upside and really a pretty high floor because he gets involved in the passing game as well. What do you think?
Yeah, he's game script proof, but as just 3-point dogs, I was kidding you. They certainly absolutely could win this game. So Swift is definitely a guy, I believe, that has a very high floor. He's $8,000. He's not cheap, and neither was Zeke. So we've got to we built this lineup around these key running backs. Who are going to supplement them at wide receiver?
Well, so let's take a look at what we got as options here for wide receiver. Please, thank you. So as you mentioned, Lamb and Cooper are probably out. Diggs probably gives you the most upside of the guys there, but we went with some expensive running backs. We probably need to save a few dollars. So let's go down to Hunter Renfrow.
How happy are you that you get to pick some Raiders now?
Yeah, well, thank you for only having 3 games on the slate. It's been a rough year for the Raiders, but Hunter Renfrow, I tell you, he gets his targets. Not much of a week this week against Cincinnati. That was a rough game for the Raiders overall. But Renfrow is a key player, not only for first downs, but also around the goal line for the Raiders. In fact, the games where they get him involved turn out to be better games for them. So, I think a pretty high floor with him. I'm not sure that there's a ton of upside, but really not a ton of upside with anybody on the list here, except for maybe with the Buffalo game.
Yeah. He's really stepped up since you lost the other wide receiver.
Ruggs. Yeah. Let's not talk about him.
All right, moving on. So you alluded to the fact that CeeDee Lamb is out, and Amari Cooper is definitely out, and CeeDee Lamb has a concussion. He has to go through concussion protocol in a short week. I think the odds are he is not going to play, and even if he does play, folks, traditionally guys coming off a concussion do not perform as well. Often coaches use them more as a decoy. So I think this is an excellent opportunity for Michael Gallup. So let's get him in our lineup at only $6,500. He went from just a couple of weeks ago having his very first game back, but now that Cooper's out and CeeDee Lamb is likely out or damaged, he's going to be the number one target. They threw to him 10 times last week in a nightmarish game when they couldn't do anything against Kansas City. I think that Dallas will be able to move the ball more. Remember, they have a 31 implied total. Let's take advantage of that and get Gallup in our lineup at a fair price.
Yeah, I mean, it might be tempting to go with Cedric Wilson, who's a little bit cheaper, but he really hasn't proven his ability to do much. And so Gallup, who I think just has a little more history, is a better option, in my opinion. Let's go to the next guy here. So
yeah, Stefan Diggs is a guy who, you and I have been high on him. We're like, eventually this guy is gonna click, and he's been starting to get touchdowns, 3 touchdowns in the last couple of weeks, even though in 2 of the last 3 weeks the Buffalo offense really has stalled. But now they play New Orleans and Marshawn Lattimore, the guy's getting up there, but he still can slow some of the best wide receivers down. So how about Emmanuel Sanders in a homecoming game, Michael? He used to play for these same Saints. Now he gets to come back home. And here's the bottom line. You save $2,500 off Stefan Diggs. That's too much of a savings not to grab Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. So, again, I think we're counting on Lattimore being on Diggs. That being the case, and Buffalo Bills got to get right. I think they need to balance out with the running game a little bit, but I see them needing to, really looking to get the ball to Sanders this week.
All right, so we got Renfrow, Gallup, and Sanders, 2 of which we believe will be the number 1 wide receiver, and the other might have a very big role with the number 1 wide receiver going up against a shutdown corner. So those are our wide receivers. Let's move to tight end. And man, your guy, your Raider, talk about him a little bit. He's by far the most expensive guy, but is it fair to say he's had a disappointing year based on expectations?
Yeah, to say the least. It's been a really tough situation for him, and I think he's been hurt by we won't say names, by the wide receiver loss from the speed. because that just makes it really not much easier to bracket Waller. And that's what teams have been doing. And so I don't think it's worth the spend. I think there are better options out there who perhaps not only have a higher floor or similar floor, but may have some more upside because of that bracketing that we're seeing on Waller. And so we've been talking a little bit about TJ Hawkinson. Yeah, he's a little more expensive than some of the other guys, but he's just that much more athletic as well. Like you say, maybe not the hairdo that is in love with the hairdo, but there have been some weeks where he's shown that he can produce. Last week against Pittsburgh was a tough week, but throw that week out, and for the most part, he's been averaging high points.
Yeah, and this is a game, like we said, that we think Detroit could actually win this at home and potentially put some points on the board. So I like Hawkinson's floor, and like you said, he's got a little bit of an upside there. So from there, we'll take a peek, and we've got. Let's go to quarterback. So we're getting a little bit of the lay of the land here in our Thanksgiving slate. $6,300. So we can spend a little bit of money. We don't have to go bargain basement. Where would you like to go at quarterback?
Well, since we've been talking so much about the Raiders, let's talk a little bit about my guy, Derek Carr. And I say he's my guy. I've been really disappointed in how the Raiders have played the last few weeks. And Derek Carr, you might argue, is a part of that. But some of it's been the game script. Some of it's been the poor play on the defense. But Derek Carr, has save a couple weeks, has put up good fantasy points. It's a little bit scary to pay the big bucks for Allen, who's really had a couple of rough weeks lately and looked very, very vulnerable. And the same happened with Dak Prescott against Kansas City, where we thought for sure there would be a high scoring game. And part of that was the loss of the receivers, and those same receivers are going to be out. So as we mentioned, we see the Dallas Cowboys putting the ball on the ground and think that the Buffalo Bills need to do the same. I think that the Raiders are going to be playing from behind. And with that, I think that Derek Carr is going to put up some decent fantasy numbers this week. But there's really, to be honest, there's nobody I'm in love with this week on the fantasy slate.
When in doubt, go back to that Dallas Vegas game. It's the highest scoring game. You stole my thunder. You gave the reasons against Dak Prescott that I was going to give. And once you go below Carr, sorry, I do not trust any of the other quarterbacks below Derek Carr. So, and there's not much of a savings that you get. You're like, okay, I'll bite the bullet and go with Trevor Siemian, even though he'll probably get some goal line work stolen from him by Taysom Hill. You only save $400. And Andy Dalton, who I think will start because Fields is likely going to be out. Andy Dalton doesn't run the ball. $200. So I don't get these pricing with these other guys. They're just begging us to pick Derek Carr.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Carr's not going to take us for a ride, though, Willie. All right. Let's take a look at flex. So, Michael, when we're looking at flex, we already have nailed two top running backs. I'd love to get a running back, which I think that the team is not going to be way behind. And they're actually favored. And that's David Montgomery at $7,500. All right, Michael, David Montgomery is favored. He's a 24 implied total. And look at that Lion defense. And you wonder, if we could just only know, how would David Montgomery do against that Lion defense? Oh, wait a minute. He played the Lions earlier this year. How'd he do? 23 carries, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns. The guy is back. He's healthy. Chicago's had some tough games recently, but I think they're going to be in this from start to finish. And that's what's necessary for Montgomery. You don't want to have him fall too far behind. I don't think that's going to happen this week.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And, we could have potentially even talked about him before we talked about Swift and before we talked about Zeke, because I think that because of who he's going up against, this may be perhaps the guy with the most upside. Now, we want to mention, and Eric, pointing this out as we were preparing for the show, we want to point out that especially in a week when you only have a few games to go with, it's really a pretty good idea to move around the running backs or whoever your extra, your third running back is, or fourth wide receiver, if that's what you're going with for your flex. Put the one who's in the later window, just in case you need to move something around and go with another player.
And since Elliott has a little bit of a questionable tag now, even though I think he's going to be fine, if something were to happen to him, then you can replace him not only with a running back, you can replace him with a tight end or wide receiver. And that's important in a short slated game. All right, what do we got left for defense? The answer is not much. So let's take a peek. We have a whopping $4,100 left. And that leaves us with 4 defenses. Michael?
Yeah, so
I think
the Detroit Lions are going up against the one of the worst offenses and susceptible to giving up points. But I'm going to pick on my Raiders and go with those Dallas Cowboys, who've actually looked pretty decent on the defensive side. Even this week against Kansas City, they looked pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. The offense just looked atrocious. So for me, this is the defense to go with. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I think the phrase of the day was going to be, how about them Cowboys? I do like them. You can see as a defense, they perform really well. Diggs has just been amazing, Michael, as a cornerback, creating lots of plays. And let's not forget, they are a 7-point favorite. They're the biggest favorite of all the teams this week. So from a game script perspective, Las Vegas likely will be trying to play from behind, which is your defense. You'd love to be ahead as a defense, and being in the other team being an obvious passing situation. Cowboys. Now, what we're going to do is we'll monitor this lineup. If there's some, some late breaking news that opens up opportunities, we'll swap out the guys in the comment section and have a dialogue about how you'd adjust this lineup. Again, if you're going to do GPP, we'd like to talk briefly about GPP. You're going to want to do it with a stack. Obviously, your options aren't that heavy, Michael. I think you will attack this Dallas-Vegas game. And personally, I like your guy. I would go with the Derek Carr and maybe run. Tell me, you're the Raider expert. Who would you stack David Carr in GPP where you want a really high ceiling with?
I think it's still Waller. I think he's the guy who has the ability to do the most damage. And so that's where I'd go with. I know it's kind of tough to go with an expensive tight end this week, but to me, that's the most damage that can be done with the Raider game.
Okay. And I would run that back with Michael Gallup as the biggest ceiling of those wide receivers. Folks, we want to take a pause and wish you guys a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And be sure to check out, I'll put it on the screen now, the Thanksgiving slate on DraftKings, as well as a recent video where we gave you the 3 keys to success in NFL DFS, whether you're playing on DraftKings or Fanduel. Until you see you next time, have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.